The first thing I saw when I opened my eyes was the fluorescent light above my hospital bed, buzzing like a trapped insect. The second thing I felt was the pain: 3 broken ribs, a punctured lung, and my right arm in a cast that stretched from my fingers to my shoulder. The third thing I heard was my mother's voice, but not in person. She was on speakerphone, and my husband Michael was holding the phone, his face pale and his jaw tight. "Linda, please," Michael said, his voice cracking. "Claire is in the ICU. I'm in Dallas. I can't get a flight until morning. Someone needs to watch Emma." My mother's voice came through the speaker, tinny and irritated. "Michael, I'm at the casino. I drove all the way to Gary. Your sister never has these emergencies. She plans things. She thinks ahead." I tried to speak, but the tube in my throat wouldn't let me. I could only watch Michael's face as he processed what she just said. His eyes met mine, and I saw something I'd never seen in them before. Disgust. Not at me. At her. "Your granddaughter is 6 weeks old," Michael said slowly, each word deliberate. "Claire was hit by a delivery truck. She nearly died. And you're at a casino." "I'll be home tomorrow," my mother said. "Lauren is on a cruise, so she can't help. Maybe you should call one of Claire's friends from work. Those financial people she's always talking about. They must have nannies or something." She hung up without saying goodbye. Michael looked at me, and I could see him trying to decide whether to tell me about the call or spare me. He didn't know I'd already heard everything. I closed my eyes and felt the tears slide down my temples into my hair. Not from the pain. From the clarity. That was the moment I realized I had been a fool for 9 years. I had been the dependable one. The load-bearing wall. The one who never needed anything because needing something would have been an inconvenience to everyone else. My steadiness had been treated as a blank check, and my mother had been cashing it for nearly a decade. I didn't cry for long. The nurse came in to check my vitals and I pointed at my throat, gesturing for something to write with. She brought me a dry erase board and a marker. I wrote, "Call overnight care agency. License required. References checked." The nurse nodded. "I know a few. I'll make some calls." I wrote again. "Michael." My phone. Left hand. Michael was already at my bedside, scrolling through my contacts. "Who do you want me to call?" I wrote, "Janet. Night nurse." Saved in contacts. Michael made the call, and within 40 minutes, a woman named Janet sent a photo to his phone. Emma was sleeping peacefully in her bassinet, swaddled in the blanket my grandmother Ruth had knitted before she died. Janet had already set up the baby monitor, and was reading a book in the rocking chair. I had solved the immediate problem. Now I had to solve the larger one. With my left hand I opened my banking app. The screen was small, and my fingers were clumsy, but I'd been a financial analyst long enough to navigate any interface. I went to scheduled transfers and stared at the 4 recurring payments I'd been making for 9 years. $2,000 for mom and dad. $1,000 for the mortgage. $900 for dad medical. $500 for Lauren's support. 4 taps. Cancel. 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 $4,500 a month gone. I didn't feel relief. I felt rage. Cold, calculating rage that numbed the pain in my ribs. I started digging deeper, scrolling through 9 years of transaction history. That's when I found it. A hidden $40,000 loan to Lauren, filed under my father's medical expenses. The memo line read, "Dad's surgery." I checked the dates. My father hadn't had any surgery in the past decade. He'd had a hip replacement when I was 22, 2 years before I started sending money. The $40,000 had been transferred to Lauren's account in 5 installments over 18 months. $40,000. My sister had been in her late 20s, working at a boutique clothing store, living in a studio apartment she couldn't afford. She'd used the money to move to a 2-bedroom in Wicker Park and buy a used BMW. I remembered her posting photos of the car on Instagram. Everyone commented on how proud her parents must be. They were proud. They were proud of her for using my money. I added it all up. $2,000 a month for 60 months. $1,000 a month for 60 months. $900 a month for 60 months. $500 a month for 60 months. Plus the $40,000 loan. Plus a few smaller transfers I'd forgotten about. $486,000. I'd given my family nearly $500,000, and not one of them had ever said thank you. Not once. I grew up in a rented duplex in Aurora, Colorado. My parents, Robert and Linda, had married young, had 2 kids, and spent the next 20 years struggling to make ends meet. My father worked construction until his back gave out. My mother worked retail, then waitressed, then stopped working entirely when she claimed her nerves couldn't handle it. My sister Lauren was 3 years older than me, and she was the sun our family orbited around. She was beautiful in a way that made people stop and stare. She had my mother's sharp cheekbones and my father's green eyes, and she knew exactly how to use them. When Lauren cried, the world stopped. When Lauren needed something, it materialized. When I cried, my mother told me to stop being dramatic. When I needed something, I figured out how to get it myself. I worked my way through community college, waiting tables at a diner and cleaning offices at night. I transferred to the University of Colorado for my junior year and graduated with a degree in finance. My parents didn't come to graduation. Lauren had a migraine and needed my mother to stay home with her. My father promised to make it up to me. He never did. I moved to Chicago at 22, got a job as a junior analyst at a mid-sized firm, and started climbing the ladder. I was good with numbers, better with strategy, and I had a work ethic that came from knowing no one was going to hand me anything. By 26, I was a senior financial analyst at a Fortune 500 company. By 27, I'd met Michael. Michael was a software engineer from a small town in Ohio. He had the kind of steady, unshakable calm that I'd never experienced in my family. When I told him about my parents, he listened without judgment. When I told him I sent them money every month, he asked if that was what I wanted to do. I feel like I have to, I said. He didn't push. He just said, make sure you're taking care of yourself too. We married at 26 in a small ceremony at City Hall. My parents came, but my mother complained about the venue, and Lauren wore a dress that was clearly designed to upstage me. Michael's family was there too. His mother, his father, his 2 brothers, all of them warm and normal and kind. They treated me like I'd always been part of their family. On our wedding night, Michael asked if I'd ever considered pulling back on the money I sent to my parents. They're struggling, I said. My dad's medical bills are expensive. Michael nodded and didn't say anything else. He never pushed, never questioned. He just watched. And I should have paid more attention to what he was seeing. The hospital room was quiet except for the beeping of machines. Michael had stepped out to get coffee, and I was alone with my thoughts and my phone. I'd already spent an hour creating a spreadsheet, tracking every payment I'd made over the past 9 years. The colors made it easy to see where the money had gone. Green for my father's medical expenses. $65,000. Not $900 a month for 9 years. Just $65,000 total. Blue for the mortgage. $11,000. That was it. The house in Naperville, where my parents had lived since I was 16, had been paid off years ago. They'd taken out a second mortgage at some point, but they'd been using my money to pay it down. Yellow for Lauren. $120,000, including the hidden loan. I'd been funding my sister's lifestyle for 9 years, and I hadn't even known it. Red for the casino. $290,000 in cash withdrawals near the Horseshoe Casino in Hammond, Indiana. The red was the biggest section of the spreadsheet. It glowed like a warning. My mother had been gambling away my money for nearly a decade. $290,000. That wasn't nervousness or bad luck. That was addiction. That was systematic, deliberate theft. I'd been paying for her habit, and she'd been telling everyone that she and my father covered Lauren's brand themselves. I remembered a family dinner a few years ago, when my Aunt Patricia had complimented my mother on her generosity. "You and Robert are so good to Lauren," Patricia had said. Not every parent would help their adult daughter like that. My mother had smiled and accepted the praise. She hadn't mentioned me. Not once. I was just the bank. The ATM they could hit up whenever they needed cash. And like any ATM, I didn't get thanked. I just got used. 3 hours after I canceled the transfers, my grandfather Harold arrived at the hospital. He was 83, tall and thin with a shock of white hair, and the kind of quiet dignity that came from a lifetime of hard work. He'd been a high school principal in Aurora for 35 years, and he'd always been my favorite relative. "Claire," he said, pulling a chair close to my bed. I heard about the accident. Are you okay? I nodded, pointing at the dry erase board. I'll be fine. Broken ribs, punctured lung. They're keeping me for observation. Harold looked at the board, then at my phone, which was still open to the spreadsheet. He didn't say anything for a long moment. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out a worn manila folder. I've been holding on to this for 6 years, he said. Your grandmother Ruth gave it to me before she died. She made me promise to wait until the right moment. I wrote, "What is it?" Harold opened the folder and slid a stack of papers across the hospital bed. I recognized the letterhead immediately. It was from a law firm in Springfield, Illinois. The kind of firm that handled estates and trusts. Ruth knew what your mother was doing, Harold said. She kept track. She knew about the money you were sending, and she knew where it was going. She couldn't stop it while she was alive, but she could prepare for what happened after. I looked at the papers. It was a trust document, signed by my grandmother 6 months before she died. She'd left everything to me and Emma. Everything. The house in Naperville. The small plot of land in Wisconsin, where we'd gone camping every summer when I was a kid. The accounts. All of it. Your mother doesn't know about this, Harold said. I've been waiting for the right time to reveal it. I think that time is now. I wrote. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Harold looked at me and his eyes were sad. Because I needed to be sure you were ready. Ruth was always proud of you, Claire. She knew you were the strong one. She knew you'd figure it out eventually. I sat back against the pillows, the papers trembling in my left hand. My grandmother had been dead for 6 years, and she'd been looking out for me the whole time. She'd known about the money. She'd known about the gambling. And she'd made sure my mother couldn't take a single cent more. What happens now? I asked. Harold's face settled into something hard. Now we have a family dinner. The dinner was my mother's idea. She'd called it a family gathering at a restaurant in Oak Brook, a place that was expensive enough to impress but casual enough to seem approachable. She'd invited everyone, my father Lauren, my Aunt Patricia, my cousin Brian, my grandfather Harold, Michael, and me. I knew what she was doing. She was trying to pressure me into restarting the money. She was going to perform her wounded act, claim I was being dramatic, and rally the family against me. She'd done it before, when I was a teenager and I'd refused to give Lauren my savings for a new dress. I'd been the villain then too. But I wasn't a teenager anymore. I arrived at the restaurant with Michael, Emma in a carrier, and my grandfather. I wore my sling, my cast, and the kind of calm that came from knowing I had the truth on my side. My mother was already at the table, wearing a floral dress that cost more than my first car. She smiled when she saw me, the kind of wide, toothy smile she used when she wanted something. Claire, sweetheart, she said, rising to kiss my cheek. You look tired. Are you sure you should be out of the hospital? I'm fine, I said. Michael and I had to get out of the house. My father gave me a weak smile from across the table. He looked thinner than I remembered, his skin gray and his eyes tired. He'd been caught in the middle of this for decades, and it had taken a toll on him. Lauren arrived late, as she always did, wearing designer jeans and a silk blouse. She hugged me carefully, avoiding my cast, and murmured something about how sorry she was about the accident. I heard you were on a cruise, I said. She flushed. I was. I didn't get the news until we docked. I would have come home, but the cruise was more important, I said. It wasn't a question. My mother cut in, her voice bright. We're all just so relieved you're okay, Claire. The accident must have been terrible. Michael, you should have called me sooner. I called you immediately, Michael said. You were at the casino. The table went quiet. My mother's smile faltered. I was playing a few slots, she said. It's not like I was out of town. I would have come if it was an emergency. You told me to hire a nanny, Michael said. You said your other daughter never has emergencies. Lauren's face went red. That's not what I said. You're twisting her words. I'm not, Michael said. I was on the phone. I heard every word. My mother laughed, a sharp, brittle sound. This is ridiculous. We're here to clear the air, not to bicker. Claire, I know you've been under a lot of stress. The accident, the baby, all of it. But cutting off your parents like that. Cutting you off? I said. I sent you $4,500 a month for 9 years. That's not cutting you off. That's giving you more than most people make in a year. Aunt Patricia leaned forward. Claire, your parents have always struggled. It's not fair to hold that against them. They needed help. They needed help, I repeated. So why did they spend $290,000 at a casino? The silence was absolute. I pulled the spreadsheet out of my bag and placed it on the table. It was printed on 3 pages, each one color-coded, each one damning. This is where the money went, I said. You can see it here. Green is my father's medical expenses. That's $65,000. Blue is the mortgage. That's $11,000. Yellow is Lauren. That's $120,000. And red is the Horseshoe Casino. That's $290,000. No one said anything. My mother's face had gone pale. You're lying, she said. Those numbers are made up. They're bank statements, I said. I've had them verified. The casino cash withdrawals are right there. I can show you the dates, the times, the locations. I can show you the surveillance footage if you want. My father's head had dropped to his chest. He was a broken man, I realized. Complicit but broken. How did you get Lauren's money? My mother demanded. That was supposed to be private. $40,000, I said. Hidden under my father's medical expenses. I checked the dates. No surgery. No hospital bills. Just Lauren's bank account. Lauren was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. I didn't mean to take that, she said. Mom said it was a gift. She said you wanted me to have it. I never said that, I said. I never said any of that. You all just assumed I'd keep paying, keep funding your lives, keep being the ATM. And I did. For 9 years I did. But I'm done. My mother stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. You ungrateful little. Sit down, Linda. It was my grandfather Harold, his voice quiet but firm. He'd been sitting at the end of the table, watching the whole spectacle with the patience of a man who'd been waiting years for this moment. You don't get to talk to me like that, my mother said. I'm not talking to you, Harold said. I'm telling you. Sit down. She sat. I'd never seen her obey anyone like that. Harold reached into his jacket and pulled out the manila folder. He placed it on the table next to my spreadsheet. Ruth knew what you were doing, he said. She knew about the gambling. She knew about the money Claire was sending. She knew about all of it. And 6 years ago she made a choice. He slid the trust document across the table. She left everything to Claire and Emma. Everything. The house, the land, the accounts. It's all in trust for them. You can't touch it, Linda. Not a single cent. My mother's face went through several emotions in rapid succession. Shock, rage, denial. Then something close to terror. That's not legal, she said. I have rights. That's my house. I've lived there for. The house belongs to Claire and Emma, Harold said. The trust is airtight. I've had lawyers review it. You can fight it, but you'll lose. And you'll be paying legal fees with the money you don't have. My mother's hands were shaking. You can't do this to me. I'm your daughter-in-law. I'm family. You were family, Harold said. But you were also a thief. You stole from your own daughter to fund a gambling habit. You lied to everyone. You manipulated your grandchildren. And you never once showed any remorse. The table was silent. My father still hadn't looked up. Lauren was dabbing at her eyes with a napkin. Aunt Patricia was staring at the documents like they were poisonous snakes. I'm going to contest this, my mother said. I'll get a lawyer. I'll fight it. Go ahead, I said. But if you do, I'll file a police report. We're talking about nearly $300,000 in theft. That's a felony. And I have the bank statements to prove it. My mother's face went white. She knew I wasn't bluffing. Let's go, she said to my father, grabbing her purse. We're leaving. My father looked at me, his eyes full of something I couldn't quite identify. Shame maybe. Regret. He opened his mouth as if to speak, then closed it again. He followed my mother out of the restaurant. Lauren stayed. She was still crying, her makeup smudged. Claire, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. You knew, I said. You might not have known about the casino, but you knew I was paying for your life. You knew I was the one funding your car, your apartment, your vacations. You just didn't care. That's not true, she said. I thought you were happy to help. I wasn't helping, I said. I was being used. There's a difference. She left too, her heels clicking against the floor. Aunt Patricia cornered me in the parking lot. I was holding Emma, Michael at my side, Harold a few steps away. Claire, this is going to destroy the family, she said. You can't just. Actually, I can, I said. And I just did. You can have your opinion, Patricia. But you don't get a vote. You never had a dog in this fight. And you certainly weren't helping me when I was on my own. She huffed and walked away. Michael took Emma from me, his arm brushing against my good shoulder. Are you okay? He asked. Honestly, I said. I don't know. I think I will be. But right now, not really. He nodded. That makes sense. You've been their bank for 9 years. You just closed the account. That takes some processing. I laughed, a sound that came out more broken than I'd intended. I never told you about the money. I know, he said. I figured it out eventually. I didn't want to push. I knew you'd tell me when you were ready. You knew. Claire, I've been married to you for 8 years, he said. I'm not an idiot. I saw the transfers. I just assumed you had it handled. And you did. You handled it. I leaned into him, feeling the weight of everything I'd been carrying for 9 years start to lift. The trust held. My mother's threats stopped almost immediately, because she knew I had the evidence and the will to use it. She and my father still live in the house, which is hard sometimes. I see them at family events, and my mother gives me the cold shoulder while my father looks at me with pleading eyes. But the money stopped. The gambling stopped. My mother had to find a new addiction, and I wasn't funding it. Lauren got a real job, a receptionist at a dental office, and started paying her own bills. She didn't thank me, but I saw the change in her. She was less dependent, more present. Maybe she'd been trapped too in her own way. Trapped in the role of the needy one, the one who always needed saving. Without the money, she had to save herself. My father calls sometimes when he's alone. He doesn't apologize, he never does, but he asks about Emma. He asks about Michael. He asks about me. I let him talk and I don't say much. It's not forgiveness. It's just endurance. He's a victim too in his own way, but victims can also be accomplices, and he chose her every time. Harold moved to Evanston, 15 minutes from our apartment. He comes for Sunday dinner every week, always bringing the folder. He says he keeps it as a reminder that someone was looking out for me, even when it didn't feel like it. Emma is 3 years old now. She's smart and stubborn and has her grandmother's fierce determination, but she uses it to build things instead of tear them down. She already knows her great-grandmother Ruth's name, and she knows she can always count on Harold for a secret snack. I learned something valuable from all of this. People who praise you for being the strong one are often just naming the person they've decided they'll never have to carry. They lean on you and call you resilient while they take and take and take. And you let them because you've been taught that strength means never needing anything. But real strength isn't never needing. Real strength is knowing when you've given enough. Real strength is stopping. The day I stopped being their bank was the day I finally became something better. A mother to my own daughter instead of a parent to everyone who refused to grow up. I don't regret the money. It was a lesson. I regret that I didn't see the truth sooner. But I see it now. And I'll never look away again. The trust holds. My father still calls. My mother still hates me. And I am finally free. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to Hushed Life Stories for more powerful and emotional narratives.